The stagecoach rattled to a stop in front of Cheyenne's main thoroughfare, spitting up a cloud of Wyoming dust that settled on everything like a judgment. Eliza Thornfield gripped the doorframe, steadying herself before stepping down. Her legs trembled, not from the journey, though 5 days of cramped seating and bad roads had left their mark, but from what came next. She scanned the street. Wooden storefronts, hitching posts, men in worn hats standing in clusters, watching the new arrivals with the bored curiosity of people who had nothing better to do. No Caleb. She'd memorized his description from the letters. Tall, dark beard, scar above his left eyebrow from a ranch accident. He'd write with careful penmanship, each letter promising something simple. A home. A partnership. A life that made sense. Not love. She'd never asked for that. Just a place to belong. The driver dropped her bag at her feet with a thud that seemed louder than it should have been. "That all you got, miss?" "It's enough," she said. He tipped his hat and climbed back up. The stagecoach lurched forward, wheels grinding against packed earth, leaving her standing alone with her worn leather bag and the sinking realization that Caleb Durham was not coming. Not yet, anyway. She told herself to wait. Men got delayed. Ranches had emergencies. Maybe he was dealing with a sick horse or a fence that needed mending. Maybe he'd be here within the hour, apologetic and ready to make things right. Eliza picked up her bag and walked toward the boarding house she'd seen advertised in one of Caleb's letters. Mrs. Cartwright's establishment. Clean rooms, reasonable rates, respectable clientele. The woman behind the desk looked her up and down with the practiced assessment of someone who'd spent years sizing up travelers. "How long you staying?" "Just tonight," Eliza said. "I'm meeting someone." "Uh-huh." Mrs. Cartwright slid a key across the counter. "Room 4, upstairs, end of the hall. Payment up front." Eliza counted out the coins carefully. She didn't have much left after the journey. The room was small, but clean. A narrow bed, a washstand, a window that overlooked the street. She set her bag down and sat on the edge of the mattress, smoothing her skirt with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. 2 hours passed, then 4. She watched the sun slide lower, painting the buildings in shades of amber and rust. Men finished their work and headed toward the saloon. Women hurried home with baskets. The street emptied. Still no Caleb. By the time darkness settled over Cheyenne, Eliza had stopped watching the window. She'd stopped expecting footsteps in the hallway or a knock at the door. She lay on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the boarding house settling around her. Voices drifted up from downstairs. Laughter. The clink of glasses. She thought about her mother's face the day she'd announced her decision to come west. The disappointment. The resignation. The unspoken belief that Eliza was making a mistake born of desperation. Maybe she'd been right. Eliza closed her eyes and tried not to think about what came next. Morning arrived cold and unforgiving. Eliza washed her face in the basin, changed into a fresh dress, the only other one she owned, and went downstairs. Mrs. Cartwright was serving breakfast to a handful of boarders. She glanced up when Eliza entered. "Your gentleman friend find you?" "Not yet." The woman's expression shifted slightly. Not quite pity. Something harder. "You got a name for this man?" "Caleb Durham." One of the men at this table looked up. He was older, weathered, with the kind of face that had seen too many winters. "Durham?" Eliza turned toward him. "You know him?" The man exchanged a glance with his companion. "Knew him. He ran a small spread east of here. Sold it off about 2 months back. Heard he went to California." The room tilted. California. 2 months. Eliza gripped the back of a chair. "You're certain?" "Sure as I'm sitting here. Asked around about buying some of his equipment before he left. He was in a hurry. Didn't say much about why." The other man chuckled. "Probably got into some kind of trouble. Durham wasn't exactly known for making smart decisions." Mrs. Cartwright shot him a look, but the damage was done. Eliza felt the weight of their stares, the questions they weren't asking, the conclusions they were drawing. She'd come all this way for a man who'd left before she'd even boarded the stagecoach. "Thank you," she managed. Her voice sounded distant. Not quite hers. She walked out of the dining room and climbed the stairs to her room. Closed the door, sat on the bed. The silence pressed in from all sides. She didn't cry. Crying required energy she didn't have. Instead, she pulled out the letters. 6 of them, each one carefully folded and reread so many times the creases had begun to tear. They felt like lies now. Every promise, every word, lies written by a man who'd never intended to keep them. She should leave, go back east, admit defeat. But the truth was simpler and more brutal than that. She had nowhere to go. The life she'd left behind had closed the moment she'd stepped onto that stagecoach. She'd burned every bridge in a single act of desperate hope. And now she was stranded. Mugged. By afternoon, the whispers had started. Eliza could feel them as she walked through town, searching for work, for options, for anything that might give her a foothold in this place. A woman alone. Abandoned. Unmarried. The ranch hands snickered when she passed. The women in the general store fell silent, their eyes following her with a mix of curiosity and contempt. One of them finally spoke as Eliza was leaving. "Shame about your situation." Eliza turned. The woman was middle-aged, wearing a clean apron and an expression that wasn't quite sympathetic. "I'm managing," Eliza said. "Are you?" The woman tilted her head. "You came here for Caleb Durham, didn't you? Saw you getting off the stage yesterday." "I did." "Well," the woman smoothed her apron. "He's gone, and you're here, alone." She paused, letting the weight of that word settle. "Might want to think about what that looks like."